Hello, everyone. It's your boy Eddie, and I'm back with another episode of EAC Speaks. And it's engaging Arkansas communities where we're always epic, empowering, preventing, innovating, and connecting. So, as you know, EAC Speaks is about bringing on folks to show awareness for HIV issues in Arkansas, but we also have partners that are across the country. And so I wanted to bring on my special guest for this episode to talk about some really important factors that I think we could also mimic in Arkansas and also join along in some of the things that she's doing. So my guest today is none other than Deirdre Speaks. So my audience speak. Yes.
Woo! Yay! Hello, EAC Speaks. Okay, I'm already digging the name already. I've been digging it. I've been checking it out. And y'all are doing amazing work. I mean, Eddie, come on. It is so perfect because just in simple, I love this name because it talks about what we're going to speak about, everything that we're speaking about, and it doesn't like pin anything in. So I am honored to be here today with you to talk, not even just to talk, just to engage in conversation about the work that I'm doing, who I am, and where I will say I'm in the land of the Appomattox people, which is Colonial Heights, Virginia. Yes, VA is repping today.
VA?
Yeah, yay. For real. And I'm a lifelong resident, military brat, and a whole bunch of other things, but more importantly, leading with love in this community that we live and learn on.
Yes, and I will tell you, these are one of my favorite people in the entire world. So you are in for a treat today with this episode, y'all.
Thank you.
So, oh yeah, there's nothing but love. Tell the people a little bit more about some of the stuff you do, a little bit about yourself. What is it?
Okay. So started this. I'm gonna call it a brand. I'm actually Deirdre Johnson, and really started doing this work as Deirdre Johnson 20 years ago. I found out my status when I was pregnant with my youngest, who is now about to turn 22 in May. And at that point, I recognized like, yo, the this information, like, how did I not know this? Number one, about what HIV is, how you get it, anything else in between, and more importantly, the lives of people that are living and thriving and surviving and everything else with that in this world. And then being a Black woman pregnant and navigating all of that and also navigating HIV. So after really during while I was pregnant, one of my first presentations was to actually go to TC Williams High School in Alexandria, home of
Mm.
the Titans. And I did my first presentation while I was actually pregnant with my youngest and talking to middle school students, high school students about living with HIV. And from there, it just kind of kept doing speaking. Met up with a couple of organizations that were like, hey, we've got some work that's being done on policy in Virginia. Would you like to join? Which one was PWN, the other is Zero Project, and PWN is Positive Women's Network. And from there, helping to get to a conference. HIV is not a crime, and met my amazing best friend, everything, brother, sister, partner in change, Cedric Pulliam. Ended up founding a coalition ending criminalization of HIV and over incarceration in Virginia. Don't worry, you don't have to remember that part. Yeah, we shorten it for the folks. It is Echo VA, and within 2.5 years, we were very instrumental in changing the modernizing our laws in Virginia when it comes to HIV criminalization. And during that time is really when Deirdre Speaks started to be activated. And my all first goal was honestly was to create a crew of speakers that would go out and talk about whatever it is that they wanted to speak about. And that's kind of where Deirdre Speaks got started. And now we're doing different projects. I'm working with different organizations and pharma companies and starting virtual support groups. So there's a lot of things that I've got my hands in, some known and some unknown. So yeah, that's a little bit and a lot of bit all about me, all in about 30
Yes.
sentences.
Baby, when I tell you this is some amazing work, some very inspiring work that you have done, some historical moments that have happened. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be a no-brainer to have Deidre on the show. So I kind of want to start from the beginning. We'll kind of weave your story in through the questions, but let's start when you first were found out about your status. What did that support look like for you?
And you hear the crickets?
I heard it.
Yeah, that's that's what it looked like for me. I have to be honest. Where I was diagnosed was in El Paso, Texas. I was in a very traumatic trauma and everything space with the partner that I was with at the time. And one of the first people that I called, to be honest, was my mom. And she was at work and was like, listen, I know you need me, but I can't talk, just in the space that she worked in. And I ended up calling my dad. And my dad was like, he gave me the best advice for real that I lived to with. Don't go to sleep thinking about it, and don't wake up thinking about it. In
Mhm.
essence, live your life.
Wow.
And those were the first two people I told. I did tell my partner, but that's a whole, we can do a two hour spiel on that whole deal. But
Okay.
it was blaming, shaming, and some other things. But I knew where I was. They knew what they were. But some folks weren't being truthful, and it wasn't me.
Mm. So, was there anything that you wish that you had?
Yeah, somebody that I could talk to, like, okay, this happened to me. What do I do next? What is this medicine? How does it affect my body? I'm pregnant. How is it affecting my child?
Hmm.
What should I do? Should I eat pork? Should I not eat pork? Should I eat vegetables? Should I, sleep 20 hours a day? Like, what was the best practices, or someone, just a mentor or someone to speak to?
Yeah, I think that is really important because I think this shows by what you've done in the community because some of the things that we don't have, we try to actually put out there into our service for folks who may have a similar story to us, may not have had that closeness, connectedness to have those questions answered. So I will say we are talking about support, and the support group you mentioned earlier, I love Pillow Talk. So that's a place where people come together. Do you mind telling the people a little bit about Pillow Talk?
Sure. Oh, yes. Hey, Pillow Talk. Hey. Us talkers. Honestly, I believe it's in April. We will actually celebrate our 1 year anniversary
Oh my
being
God.
started. And I have to say, this actually started through another group that I was participating in.
Uh-huh.
And there was a person who was like 6 days, found out that they were positive, and had this space like the part that I wish that I had. And someone on the call said, it's like you were thrown out of a 50-story window and you landed on pillows.
Mm.
And so we, of course, are the pillows in all of our lived experience. And in that room, folks were like sharing their experiences when they were first diagnosed and with best practices. And we talked about lab work. We talked about all kinds of things. And unfortunately, that group disbanded. And the person who brought up the pillow conversation and I decided, I already had candid community conversations with Deirdre Speaks, where I would do shows every other week. And after those, people were wanting to stay on and chat more about the topics. And I said, well, hey, let's just do a support group. And we just started it from there. And we started it's called Pillow Talk, which is funny as heck because people think it's always about sex.
Uh-huh.
And it's really not. It's about those candid conversations that we want to have with professionals in meetings, in settings.
Hmm.
But it's in a space where you can do that and feel welcome to do that. So, um, about a year in, we had our group last night. We had 435, I believe, years, point 5, point 0.8. Let me be clear, point 0.8, which also speaks to folks that, I mean, at point 0.8, that means there was one person I know has only been, I mean, it was like 2.5 years, and
Uh-huh.
another person that's like 3 months in.
Yeah. I think that's really pivotal to show the different levels of experiences that folks have. And we're not gonna go into all of the stuff that we deal with in Pillow Talk, because you gotta come, baby. You just gotta enjoy Pillow
Come
Talk
on.
with us. We want you to come. But having those different levels of experiences for folks who may have been diagnosed in the early 80s and someone like me
Mhm.
diagnosed in 2014, to having those times to where I can have space to ask questions, where I may be able to offer input to somebody else or to that same person, is so loving. It's just a space that you can really come for support and tell us the criteria.
Only criteria is you have to be a person living with HIV. That's it. That's all. We accept all communities in our whole community. We accept you all. The only criteria, be living with HIV, and I'll make sure to share with you the Bitly, because it's a deal, and you can always check me out on Facebook or any other social medias at DeirdreSpeaks.com, and I normally post on Wednesdays that registration link and everything.
I love it. And it's really meeting the people where we are, because
Hmm.
it's virtual. We don't have to show up to any space. There's people from across the country. So tell me, why is it important for us to find those avenues to meet people where they are?
That's where the pulse of this work. I work in different circles in what I like to call HIV Inc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we cannot make decisions if we're not including the voice of the community.
Right.
And for me, this is one way. Number one, first, to have the community be heard,
Mm-hmm.
and then from those spaces be able to share with other folks, like, hey, this is what we're asking for,
Right.
and it translate, and them be a part of the process from Pillow Talk, but also see in how their idea, their thought, their question, their concern came from having a conversation with us in Pillow Talk, and with the amazing folks that are working in different spaces, not just me,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that translated into reality.
Love it. That's really important, because that's another way that we get into the space of like helping to bust the stigma internally,
Hmm.
but really getting to that space where we can say we're going to end the stigma in the community, and not just for ourselves, but we have to start with ourselves. Because I remember when I was first diagnosed, I had a lot of internal stigma that kept me from being as open, because I was an open book. But now you can't stop me from talking about,
Hmm.
what I can do to help folks. And I think it's another thing to really say, how do we tackle that stigma? So I want to ask you, how do you think that we can tackle the stigma in the community?
One, being able to have these type of conversations,
Mhm.
and normalize these conversations about everything, especially for those of us that are living with HIV, but even if you're not, like how you're loving on us. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's, hey, I'm checking in on them once a month to make sure that they've got their medicine, need a ride to the store, even just to go out and kiki for a minute, just something like that. To even like, no, it's wrong when you say stigmatic language that we're not even going to bring up on this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, that's not right. Or even being able to even say, I've had folks be able to tell me you equals you message. They've been able to tell me about medications they've seen on commercials, and how they've had family members, and that be normalized in a Uber conversation. Like that's what I've done, and what we've done as a community. So with that being said, then we're eradicating stigma by having this constant conversation. And then we're also exchanging ideas and solutions to other ways that we can eradicate stigma.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because in a previous episode, one of my guests talked about getting involved in like policy work. And so by having these conversations, like you said, we break the stigma, and by breaking some of the stigmatic laws and the criminalization. So tell me, I know you were involved heavily with the work in Virginia, but what are some of the things you wish people knew about HIV criminalization?
that it can happen to any one of us. Because if it starts with HIV, it also can and has been proven to go with other things as well, like other STIs and STDs. Even COVID is even a concern because there was a concern at one point of even those COVID being criminalized.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all know people and love on people that have had COVID. And could you imagine because, X person was in a house that, now we talking about intersections, but in a house that is 10 of us living in the house because of housing situations and
Mm-hmm.
systematic stuff with that and economic because folks was losing their job. And one person gets it, and guess what? The whole house ends up possibly getting it. So
Right.
you're going to criminalize X person because of that, and it wasn't intentional.
Mm-hmm.
However, we did see some folks in the midst of some Black Lives Matters where they was coughing on folk and some more stuff on purpose, and you know, that's another thing. But
Right.
that's one way, would be that. The other part is I just wish folks knew that there was a such thing as HIV criminalization
Uh-huh.
because not everybody even knows. Well, and then at the same time, I wish that folks knew it and did not feel fear that
Mm-hmm.
because they knew it, then they couldn't engage in whatever it is they chose, whether it's for themselves or to share it.
Yeah. All that fear-based tactics that were used so many years ago shows that the laws are antiquated, just as the notion of believing that you can scare people out of doing whatever behavior you want them to do. So I think it's really important that folks do know and actually not even have to be an expert in it unless you're wanting to change the laws, but at least knowing and supporting those folks who do fight against it. Because the advocate that was on previously wanted to know. So this question next is, where do you suggest folks begin when wanting to fight like HIV criminalization laws?
And one I would say is there has been a really great resource, to be honest, that I have used, a lot of us in this world movement of HIV Crim use, and that's the Center for HIV Law and Policy. And I believe it's chlp.org, but and if it's not org, it's .com. But they have where you can look state by state and say, what state am I in? What are the criminalization laws there? And then another resource that, again, linked to that would be Zero Project, and as well as Positive Women's Network. And then what we are noticing is that communities that have their own, like say, websites or Facebook posts or whatever are also linking this information in as well. So
Mhm.
that's where I would say start knowing what's in your state. And then if it's not you wanting to be in your state, if it's a community and or environment situation, whether like I'll use my sisters with breast and chest feeding. I want to make sure that if I'm breast or chest feeding my child and as a person living with HIV, I'm not criminalized. Does that happen in my state and or where does that happen so that I can make sure I can join in that fight?
Yes. Those are some great resources. Now, if you all you got to do is rewind, y'all. Just rewind a little bit and you can catch those names. But I really want you all to find those resources because I'm definitely going to be on that today. I want to do my part in fighting against these things because your victory in Virginia was monumental. I was so inspired. Can you tell me, how did you feel after that legislative victory?
Um, I'm still learning how to feel.
Okay.
If I be very, the first time it actually hit me was during a symposium in August of last year, and Marvell said a statement along the lines of, "You don't understand or you don't see the vision, and while you're in the midst of the vision, working that." And I didn't know until then that we were one of the first states in the South to do that. And then number two, to even know to even be one of the first Black women to be able to even help to guide part of that. So it still is hitting, and I wonder if this is how our civil rights and other folks' leaders felt the same. Not to minimize it, like I feel like it was another day at the office, and we got it done. But it's, yeah, this
Yeah.
sound is probably going so bad, but
No.
it's I'm still trying to understand it. So I'm proud. I understand it, but I think it won't be until I'm able to go into into retirement that it'd be like, oh shit, I did that. Um,
Yes, because I would literally tell you, I was literally bowing to the work that you all did because you're absolutely right. When you're in it, it doesn't always feel like it's this monumental thing because you're doing the work, and sometimes it can be very you have blinders on. But at the same time, folks on the outside are seeing the phenomenal work that you're doing. And I love that. I think we do need to praise that more of that because not knowing, I thought I had known of nobody else that had done that. So you were like my Rosa Parks, okay? I love it.
oh no, you're not gonna make me cry in that realization. Thank you.
Stop, because
And
I was literally tearing up.
baby, and and then the other part is like I don't. I've heard people assume that I only speak about me and I only try to elevate me. And to those that are in my circle, like you, we like, like, no, baby, you really don't know her, and that's on you. So, like some parts, it's like I really remain humble. I put my drawers on the same way that everybody else put their drawers on. Sometimes I wear them, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
Um, it's just kind of like I'm still a part of community. I don't ever want to feel like a celebrity or in that aspect because it comes with too much responsibility that I ain't got the capacity to handle.
Yeah, I do think it's a really, when you find that sweet spot of how you balance that, please write a book and let me know about it because I find that so hard sometimes because, like you said, people think you only amplify your message. And I'm like, no, I really do support other people. I just don't have to broadcast it all the time. And sometimes it's more than just a social media post. Like just because it's on social media doesn't mean that's the only thing that's happening in the world, people. So I think it's really important. But the question I really was going to ask you, like, how do you navigate that persona versus the person?
Ooh, child. Thank you for this question. Like for real. Like all jokes aside, thank you for that. It's gonna sound weird, but hear me out. Y'all see me with red glasses all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my cloak and dagger, like my Superman outfit. There's two people inside of there. So like what I do is I take off my red and I put on my purple, my other colors that I have that I got because they only know about the red. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. And then you heard me even in the beginning when we're doing this introduction, like I started with Deidre Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am at the core, period, because without Deidre Johnson, there would be no Deidre Speaks.
Right.
So I've even just recently in the last few weeks had to really tackle this question, especially over the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who is Deidre Johnson and who is Deidre Speaks?
Mm-hmm.
And when I show up in spaces, I try to be very clear as to who I am when I'm coming in. So I am changing even the smallest things. Go into Zoom. If it says most times I join in, it says Deidre Speaks. I immediately change it to Deidre Johnson
Mm-hmm.
so that folks know I'm showing up in that way and not as Deidre Speaks, the persona that folks thinks, I am. I'm happy all the freaking time. I do have my moments. We all do,
Mm-hmm.
but so that they know that there's a difference between persona and the person.
I love that. That was Very well said. And by doing those practices, no matter, like you said, how small it is, whether it's a Zoom name, changing your glasses, or whatever it is, that's some good advice for me because I think even now I sometimes struggle with it of having, oh, well, not being that person that everybody thinks that we have to be by
Mm-hmm.
being so, oh, I'm so bubbly and very happy all the time. But every bad bee has their day,
Come
okay?
through with Megan.
Okay. And
Come
Megan,
through.
she preached when
She
she
pre-
said that.
and to be honest, that song was on my rotation.
Mm.
Like during this, moment, I mean, I literally thank you. You have no clue my whole soul.
Oh,
Oh,
just
that's why
love it.
you touched my soul. Like that song, Megan's song, Anxiety, really helped me through trying to figure out Deidre Johnson and Deirdre Speaks and coming up with the balance. And the part that I really recognized then too was that, I mean, we kind of know it, but do we really talk about it? The celebrities are celebrities. Insert
Uh-huh.
celebrity name there. Some of
Right.
them, some of us don't know. Like Cardi B's name that's not her name.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so she's in that persona in that space. Um, oh shoot. She's in that space, but then she's also her person and her real name.
Right.
And as odd as it is, you and I are in those spaces. We ain't got the millions and billions yet, baby, but we working on it
Okay. Actively at
actively.
that.
In that whole
Hmm.
process, but it's still that level of stuff that we have to deal with. And then having a circle like the relationship you and I have outside of work,
Hmm.
like having those folks that know who both people are.
Hmm.
You feel what I'm saying? And being
Yeah.
able to center you, like, hold it. You went over here on this side. You better reel her on back over here on this side.
Yeah, and knowing enough to care. And I think that is really important for folks for in our field of work. So even if you are an advocate, I think it's really important to have a tribe, to have a circle, whether you also navigate with other advocates or whether you have your other friends that may not even can tell you what HIV stands for, okay? But you just have to have a really good support system because you can definitely reach to the place of advocate fatigue or burnout. And my next question is, what do you suggest for folks to help prevent advocate fatigue and to prevent burnout?
Set boundaries. Like seriously, like set boundaries. One is like when I first got started in this work, Zion went everywhere with me. That's my youngest. Was everywhere with me, and so Zayden, they were with me everywhere. And there's a crazy story about how one day I was doing a sister project facilitation, and Zion came in and pretty much did a condom demonstration for me, and they were
Mhm.
three. And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, we might need to set some boundaries on, on
Okay.
where I'm bringing my child. And let me be clear too, that it was important and it was a very teachable moment in the midst with college students. If a 3-year-old can do it, then anybody can do it.
Right.
Period. On if you're having reservations on how to put on a condom. So just those pieces, setting the boundaries. There's certain things that I won't do on the weekends.
Mhm.
And if I do something, a presentation or whatever, then I'm taking off the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Balancing it out.
balancing it out. I've actually one piece this year that I've actually set for me is I'm going on a vacation and where I'm shutting down my phones, everything. Folks that need to know, and only those folks that need to be notified and all that need to be conversated with, my loved ones, my inner circle. That's it.
Right. I love
So
that.
setting
That
those
is
boundaries.
awesome.
That would
Setting
be
boundaries.
yeah. setting boundaries, but also speaking the fatigue out,
Hmm.
letting it be known. And actually, not only to for us, I'm gonna call out. Okay, I'm gonna call out and call in organizations nationally and locally. There should be a space for advocates to be. And years ago, retreats used to happen on the regular. They don't
Hmm.
happen them anymore. And most of those retreats were, yes, focused on end of life type stuff. But now that we're thriving and surviving, then these things could be, imagine a mini USCHA in Arkansas.
Yeah. That would be awesome. I know they have other rituals, but I think it should be something that we do routinely. So speaking of like retreats and stuff, what are some of the current like places where folks with HIV can go, like conferences or um, regional things maybe that you know of? What are some of those things that you suggest folks attend?
Well, if we're going to be specific to people living with HIV, the
Yeah.
one that I'm going to be honest that I highly, highly, highly recommend attend is going to be Positive Living that happens at Fort Walton Beach, because that is a space where you ultimately get to see HIV community in its entirety in all the ways that we show up. And it's also going back to the previous question about burnout and learning how to take that moment to breathe, have
Uh-huh.
fun, and work. So, and especially with it being for us, by us, and that a lot of us is in there that we were interjecting, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But that would be that one. And then U.S. Conference on HIV and AIDS would be another one through NMAC. And the International AIDS Society Conference that happens
Yes.
internationally. Because I really want some of us U.S. folks to get outside of the
Uh-huh.
U.S. and really see that there are other, which is I'm working on a culture exchange.
Mhm.
Look at you being the exclusive on the exclusive. A project that literally you have no clue how you're exclusive. Um,
Ow.
so I'm working on a project that will be a culture exchange. We always hear about doctors across borders, nurses, all these folks going over to different countries and learning practices and doing that. Learned about or ever heard about one that includes advocates coming from one space to another space and learning about our commonalities, whether it's through crafting, whether it's through podcasting, whether it's through, just different things that they're doing. I know a bunch of women in Africa that are doing t-shirt businesses, just having those conversations, but it be amongst advocates.
Oh, shout out to the exclusive, everybody.
Mhm.
EAC Speaks. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. Poop, 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 poop.
I really think that is amazing because I have to get my ass to positive living. I always have something going on, but I really need to be more intentional about that because just hearing people speak about it really just made me say, "You're missing out, buddy."
Do you really and here's okay, so positive living. This year would be 25 years, okay, that they will celebrate being in existence. I've known about this conference for 20, been 22, so for at least 20 years. I didn't go for my first one until 2 years ago.
Okay.
And the main reason why I didn't go, and this is horrible, but it's true, um, folks, that maybe another exclusive you might be putting out. For people living with HIV, and when we go back to stigmas, I didn't want them to know my business
Mm,
while I was out there, because you would see me in a different light, whether I'm in a bikini or whether, you would see me in a different space. And so I had to get over some stigmas in my shit
yeah.
to be able to be like, yo, some folks need to see how you're moving and thriving, because some folks knew I was positive, some people didn't.
Hmm. I get that too because another exclusive. I really struggled when I first was diagnosed because I used to hear oh, why do you care? Why are you working in the field? Blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah blah. And then when I was diagnosed, it was kind of like, oh, I don't really want to tell people because then it's like I just thought too much of what other people would think. And so that's why I was like, honey, no, like you still did the same work you was doing before you were living with HIV.
Hmm.
Now you just have your own story to talk about. And it wasn't anything bad. It was just like I really just hated the idea. So I had to give it over my own shit too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally get it.
I'm trying to. Okay, so this might be another exclusive because this idea is coming. Me and you just need to be in a show in itself, like loving how we are like vibing. We probably are going overtime on some things, but just like I mean, how this conversation is going, and I can really see how with this piece, how we're talking. There are leaders in the space that need to have these questions asked.
Yeah.
Um, which okay, sidebar, another exclusive. These are crazy ideas. Welcome to the brain of Deirdre Speaks. Um, of like ideas of things that I would love to come into fruition. Where we had this moment, and could you imagine leaders having drinks,
Mm.
having with other because some I know some folks that are connoisseurs of
Yeah.
and things, just really having this intimate conversation about like a lot of the questions that you're asking me now.
Hmm. That would be phenomenal.
And then but the issue that we run into is like we just talked about is the perception. So if you see me having a libation and we're talking and we're having this real serious conversation, are you looking at me different if I decide to have one too many libations afterwards?
Yeah.
And folks have to recognize that, not the libations are fueling the conversation, but I'm human, you're human, we're human too.
Yes. I think that's another thing that we steer away from sometimes is humanizing the people that we see as leaders. And it's like, you have to remember we do the same things. Like you said, we put our drawers on every morning, just
Show
like
do.
everybody
Show
else.
do.
And sometimes, sometimes not, but
Right. Some days you
when,
want to, some days you don't.
yeah.
It's like the almond joy in the mountain. Some days you feel like a nut, some days you don't. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, okay, Mounds and Almond Joy, you can go ahead and sponsor this
Endorse.
segment.
Endorse us. So yeah, absolutely. We need all the endorsements. But we're coming towards the end. But I really want to ask you this question here to kind of like almost wrap us up. Self-care is something that we always talk about. It is a buzzword, but I do think it's important for folks to talk about self-care. Do you have any self-care routines? What does self-care look like for you?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
To be honest, and the the part that I thought was self-care is engaging in really diving deep into my work. I mean, like, I ain't got no man, y'all, because I work. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
may be like, I mean, sorry, I do like the man, but ladies, if you'd like to holler too, anybody else in between, I mean, hey, shoot your shot.
Okay.
Um, but it really has been diving into the work, and then of course you don't have that free time
Hmm.
to really expect. And then my whole thing is whomever my partner is, you got to be able to accept all of my family. Not
Yeah.
one or two person because, but I don't like that person, and especially if it be simple. Well, I ain't gonna say that simple. If you're not gonna like my trans sisters,
Yeah.
but you like my cis sisters, we got a problem,
There's a problem.
right? Because
Yeah.
when I'm going on these trips, baby love, I might need you with me, and you gonna cut up with one, and I then you got to go. You'll go before they go.
Okay, be out of here.
And so
Okay.
gone, gone, baby. And so that's just a personal sacrifice that I have made. But then again, I can't say that folks is knocking down my mom door either. But I would say I'm still
Figuring it
definitely
out.
figuring it out. But what I would love to see is folks really center that, because if I can be frank, money for self-care. And
Yeah.
not even, and I know what for where you can go to the Dollar Tree and get a little mask that you can put on your face, or you can whip up some avocados and some milk and some oatmeal and put it on your face. Baby, if I ain't got the milk, the avocado, and or the $1.25 to go to the Dollar Tree, how is that self-care looking?
Right. Yeah. I think people have to offer more grace when they talk about self care because it's not as simple for everybody. So, Deirdre, tell us, are there any, not even, let's say, any words of encouragement, anything you like to say?
Um, there's a lot I'd like to say, but even more importantly, the part that I really want to say is to whomever is listening, whether you're in a group, whether you're listening by yourself, or even want to share this with your friends, you are important, you are valuable, your voice matters, and you are the change that we are seeking, period. You are, and if no one has ever told you, a subject matter expert in your lived experience, whether you're living with HIV or not. Whatever experience you have experienced, you have now been crowned, dubbed person without a license for education in your insert lived experience right now. And don't ever think that anybody with alphabet soup or without alphabet soup should ever discount you because you are valuable. And so that's probably one. And then some crazy because I'm a nerd, and Eddie, you haven't even gotten into my nerdism, my nerdist mind. But years ago, I came up with this crazy deal that says um, minutes plus or minus moments equals a lifetime. I love calculus. Don't ask me why. Um, but it takes a minute to complete a task. Insert your task there. It takes a moment to make or not make a difference. Speak up or don't, to equal a lifetime of memories that you'll be able to share with everybody else. Sure, your moments always equal an amazing lifetime of your lived experience.
That will preach. I will tell you that's a whole sermon. Oh my God. Deirdre, please tell the people where they can find you for some more nuggets. How can they get to you? The website, social media, all of the above.
Yes, always at DJ everything Eirdre Speaks Speaks on all social media, and then we also have DeirdreSpeaks.com, my website, and any folks out there that are helpful with websites and trying to get some management on that part, but definitely can find me there. The Zero Project, you will find me there as well. And then anywhere that Deirdre speaks, I will be there.
Please check out all of those places. You are in for a treat on anything. If you follow along, stay tuned, and all of that jazz. But I know there were many, many nuggets that you received today because my notebook is full. I am so excited and thrilled to be offering this episode for y'all and hopefully to inspire someone else. So thank you a million times, Deirdre, again for being on EAC Speaks.
Thank you. Thank you for having this space for folks. Thank you. And we might have to do a part two. And if not a part two, then we're going to be working on some other things outside of this. But I would really love to work with you again on this.
Yes, we would definitely have that. So, bloop, be on the lookout for it. And if you want to be a guest on EAC Speaks, hit us up at info@engagingarkansas.org. We are here. Check out engagingarkansas.org for all of our services that we offer, to find out how you can contact us in the different offices to get in reach across Arkansas. And yeah, check me out online as well, Eddie W Live. And until next time, y'all, ciao. Say ciao, Deidre.
Ciao, ciao, boo, ciao.
The EAC Speaks podcast is partially supported by the Arkansas Department of Health through a grant funded in part by the CDC. All discussion is solely the responsibility of each participant and doesn't necessarily represent the official views of Engaging Arkansas Communities, the Arkansas Department of Health, CDC, or the U.S. government.